So today's session is going to be on account administration, and I'm going to demonstrate account admin, talk about how to set up users, most importantly, what the different user rights look like when you restrict user rights, how it looks for an end user when they're logging into TouchStone. And then we're going to also talk a minute about public processes right here on the home screen. So to get to account administration, where you control not only the look and feel of your account, but most importantly, the users, your employees that you set up, you go all the way to the right-hand corner here where this wheel icon is. Now, if you do not have that wheel icon, that just means that you're not an administrator. So only administrators are able to access account administration. If there is a non-administrator on the line and you don't see that in your TouchStone account, I think this session is still valuable for you because it kind of, again, shows how the user access is described in TouchStone or set up in TouchStone. So all the way to the right-hand corner where this wheel icon is, there's three options here. There's user accounts, which takes us to the account admin area, account settings, and then upgrade account. So this is what the user accounts looks like. The first thing you'll see is right here in the middle of the screen. This is your user list. And if you have set up users, then you'll see names listed here. If no users have been set up, then the only name that you'll see is what we call the key account holder, which is me right here. The key account holder is the person or the email address is another way to think about it, that set up the TouchStone account or that was used when the account was started. So when you click on it, you can then see what we call the profile, which is this box right here. The profile will show you the username, email address. The username is what you use to log into TouchStone, but hopefully it's an actual email address. And the reason is if you forget your password or any user forgets their password, the TouchStone password recovery will send a temporary password to the email address or to the username that we have on file. And so if this is not a valid email address, then that recovery goes nowhere. Other than that, if you want to make kind of dummy email addresses for your employees to log in or dummy usernames, that's perfectly fine. Just remember that the password recovery won't work. So I'm going to come back here to this user list, but before we talk about this in detail, I want to talk about account settings and then upgrade account. So you can get to these two features right here inside of account administration, or if you remember over here, there was the option to click on just one of those under that wheel icon. So if I go to account settings, this is where the look and the feel to a certain degree is established in TouchStone. It basically has to do with this header right here at the top. So that's the only thing that really gets customized when you choose header color and footer or a logo over here. The business name, which I'm just calling this training, the business name appears in the upper left-hand corner if it's selected. So down here at the bottom, it says display company name. If I click that and then hit update, then you'll see this company name appear right here. The reason we make this optional is because sometimes the logo, like the TouchStone logo, has the name in it, so you don't need the name twice. But if you do want the name, then you can, whatever you put into this field will then populate here in the upper left-hand corner when this display company name is selected. The display default colors, that just turns the default header back to this green color. So this is what it looks like when you first start your account. We've started a new process of customizing and inserting logos for people when they begin their accounts. So you may have never seen this green color, but that's what the display default color is. So I'm going to uncheck this, and then I'm going to uncheck that company name and then hit update. And then you'll see the green goes away and then also the company name. So to control the color of the whole header, it's this icon right here. It says header color, simple as that. I just click on it, and then I would choose the color I want to change it to, and then just hit update at the bottom. Then you see this banner turns that different color. The text color has to do with the text in this on the right-hand side here. So the text color, same thing. Oops, I choose it, and then close here, and then I choose the color that I want for the text, and then I hit select. The only thing to be careful of here is to make sure that your header color and your text color aren't the same color, because if they are, then you're going to lose this text in the upper right hand corner. It's going to fade into that color. To display your logo, you click this choose file button, and then you can go and look for your logo that you've saved, and then hit update, and then the logo appears in the upper left hand corner here. It doesn't have to be a certain size. If you don't have your logo here, just a quick way to fix that would be to go take your snipping tool like this, and then just take a picture of your logo, file save, and then upload it. So it could be as simple as that to upload your logo. Make sure that this button here that says display logo is checked off, otherwise your logo won't appear. I think it's a really good idea, if this isn't done for your account, to customize it, to put in your logo, to change the colors, just because when your employees log into TouchStone, it kind of feels familiar to them. They know it belongs to you. So there's definitely a value in that. This upgrade account button right here allows you to upgrade your users. At the beginning of the pandemic, 2020, early 2020, we stopped charging for users. So we did that just to kind of help people out and make it easier for you to use TouchStone remotely by adding users. So if you have run out of users, like you go to add a new user and it says you are at your 5 of 5, or you are at your 10 of 10, then just click this upgrade account button and go and select the amount of users you want and hit update. And it's just as easy as that to get more. Don't pay attention to this money here on the right-hand side, because it doesn't pertain to anyone with a TouchStone account now and forever for the lifetime of their account. There might be a point in the future where we start charging for users again, but for those of you who have accounts now, you're never going to be charged for users. You do need to be the key account holder to see this upgrade account option. So the key account holder is me right here. Even if you've been made an administrator, but you're not the key account holder, you won't see this upgrade account button. So if that's your situation, just make sure that you have the key account holder log in and go to upgrade the account. The benefit of adding users to TouchStone here in account administration is that you're giving people individual access to TouchStone. The benefit is that you can then restrict their access based on that person and their situation. So that's the huge benefit. Another key benefit is that they're able to use their control panel on the dashboard. So I'm just going to go back here to the dashboard for a second. So here, this is the control panel that I have assigned for my position. And because I have my own username and password, and I've logged into TouchStone, and I've been given access, I see my control panel here. And I'm the only one who can go and access these processes here. I mean, these processes can be linked to other job descriptions and appear inside of other control panels. But the difference is when I click customer complaints right here, and if I was to go to this checklist and I fill this checklist out as I'm doing a complaint, and then I save it, the only one who can see this is me. Any data information that I've added, any notes that I've made, if I fill out a custom form and put confidential information in there, and save it back to TouchStone. Nobody else can see it but me and my manager. So by me, I mean here in the control panel, I'm the only one who can go in and run reports and see what I've done here. But because I'm these people's manager, these people down here in management review, I can go and see what they're doing. So TouchStone gives access by position, first of all, and then it gives managerial access to the subordinate positions or the positions underneath that person on the org chart. So if I'm the manager of sales and marketing, I would get management review for these positions down here. If I'm the operations manager, I would only be able to see inside of my departments, or the people underneath me's control panels. This person here, the senior tech, can't see the warehouse manager or marketing coordinator, but they can see these positions down underneath them. The president, on the other hand, can see into everybody's control panel. The owners can see into everyone's and the president. So the higher you go in the org chart, the more expansive the access. So let's go back here to user accounts. So to create a new user, it's this button right here where it says new user. When I select it, I'm shown the blank profile that I would fill out with this new employees or new users information. The first option you have is the user type. So either it's a user, which means I can then restrict access of that person or of that user, or they're an administrator. Administrators have access to everything and can do everything in TouchStone except upgrade the account. So what that really means is that they can come here to account administration. They can mess around with everybody's user access. They can go to the 4 functions and delete things. They can change the org chart, everything. Being an administrator doesn't mean that that person can go to a dashboard, go to their dashboard and run a report of everybody's control panels. That's not what it means. The only way someone can do that is if they have a position above those other people on the org chart. But again, what an administrator can do is change things in the TouchStone account. So be aware of who you make an administrator. Usually it would be high level positions in the company, like very high level, like people on the board or the president. It would be like a TouchStone power user, somebody who you've designated as the person who's going to be maybe entering data into TouchStone and reviewing it. So someone of that caliber. So the username here is the second field, and this needs to be an email address in the email address format. So some name at somethingelse.com. Again, it's good if it's a valid email address because then the password can be recovered. Then the password is put in twice. It has to be filled in twice. And then first and last name are the only other required fields. So all the other information that's below address and all of that, you can fill in if you'd like to. If you don't, you can leave it blank. So once I filled in at least these fields, then I go and hit create user. My passwords don't match. If they don't match, you're going to see that. So create user, and then that user is set on the user list right here. This user, I made an admin user just to show you what that looks like. I know I did that because this little green key appears next to this name. The little blue circles mean that these are regular users. You can see the legend right here, pretty easy. I can take someone who's an administrator and make them a user, or I can take a user and make them an administrator. All you do is flip the user type. So I go here and I choose user this time, and then I hit update at the bottom. Now this person's a user. This next toolbar item over from new user is called delete user. And this is where you would go to delete a user. If I hit the drop down here, I'm going to see everybody's names, first, last in alphabetical order. I then choose the user I want to delete and I hit delete. Are you sure? Okay. The consequence of deleting a user, their job description doesn't disappear, nothing like that happens to the actual processes. But what does go away is any information that they've saved in their control panel. So over here on the dashboard, if that person is here and they've gone in and filled out forms and marked things as complete and checklists, everything here, that information will be gone. So when a person leaves, then it's a good idea to go and download any information that you need from that user's control panel. I'm going to go back here to the dashboard and then back here to account administration. This profile button, if I'm on any of these other options like delete user or new user, whatever user is illuminated, the one that I clicked the last time, if I hit user profile, then I'm going to see that user's profile. So it just gets you back to this screen right here. The next toolbar item over is called user access. And so this is where you go to set access. The difference between user access and control panel, which is to the right here, is the user access allows you to decide what type of access that employee is going to have to positions on the org chart, or to TouchStone is another way to say it. The control panel is the assignment of their control panel on the dashboard, like we saw over here. So let me go into a little bit more about that. So I'm going to click Jack's name right here on the list, and then I'm going to go to user access. So when I click a user from the user list and I go to user access, I then see my organization chart, and you'll see your chart here. And the reason you see the chart is because TouchStone assigns access by position on the org chart. So I think about Jack and his situation, and I decide which positions does he need to have access to. It doesn't necessarily have to be the position he fills. Usually it is, but it doesn't have to be that way. And there's a couple different situations where someone would have user access to positions that they don't fill on the org chart. One would be if the person is a manager. So if I'm the manager of admin finance here, I would need to have access to my own position, but then I might also have access to all these positions underneath me, all my subordinate positions. And in that way, as their manager, I could go in and update processes and add things and add new processes. So by giving somebody a higher level access than read only, you're then giving them the ability to edit and change things, build new processes. And it totally makes sense that a manager would have that level of access for their employees. One of the things I always try to describe is that a manager's job is to manage processes. They manage the processes by which people, the employees, get results. They get results through the processes. And it's a much different concept in a lot of cases, because oftentimes managers think of themselves as managing people and what they're doing and how they're doing it. If they shift that view to managing processes, it becomes more tangible, becomes easier to hold on to. And then you see much plainer how you use those processes with people to get results. So again, one situation where someone would have access to more than one position than their own is when they're a manager. The second situation would be when some person fills in for another position. So Jack here is the customer support position, and he's got right now currently read-only access to customer support. But let's say when the receptionist is on vacation, Jack fills in for the receptionist, cross-training. So in that situation, he might need access to receptionist, read-only access, and then hit update. So now you can see he's got access to both of these positions. There are three types of access. There's read-only access, There's edit access and create. Edit access means that the person can not just read what's there, read their processes, read the processes on their job descriptions, but they can also edit it. So they can edit titles, they can edit work plans, edit checklists. They can't create new things though. They can't add processes to their job descriptions or add work plans or add checklists. All they can do is edit what's there. Create access is the next level of access aside from being an administrator. And what create access users can do is they can not only read and edit, but they can also add new things. They can create new things, adding new processes, work plans, checklists, tools. So create access, I think, is appropriate for managers for sure. Create access is also appropriate for any person that you're going to have helping you build the processes. So think about the person individually. Think about Jack and his situation. Is Jack just going to be using processes, being trained in them, referring to them, studying them, accessing them when he forgets something? Or is Jack going to be charged with creating his processes, building new things, adding to the information? So that's the simple question to answer for yourself. And that dictates whether you would make someone read only or create. And edit kind of falls in between. Once you've assigned access to a position, to a person, to a position, you can also change it. So I can click receptionist right here, and either I could remove his access altogether, or I could change it to create and edit and read right here. And then I just hit update, and then it's changed. So he's been removed or not given access to that position any longer. So I'm going to give Jack here access to bookkeeper, and let's give him create access to that. So now you can see create shows in blue. And then let's log in as Jack. So I'm going to log out. I'm just going to pull this screen over. And then let's log in as him. So this is his username and password that he would log in as. Right here is where you go if you've forgotten your password. So this is just emphasizing that point again, that if this is not a real email address, then this isn't going to go anywhere. Then I'm going to hit log in. So this is what it looks like when Jack logs in. First thing is over here on this navigation, you'll see that it's simplified to a certain degree. I can go to the dashboard and I can go to the org chart and I can run reports. So non-admin users don't see the 4 key functions. I'll just show you the difference here. I'm going to flip back to the dashboard here and then pull this up along side by side. So you see in this case, I've got 4 key functions. I've got all these features over here. Because I'm an admin user, I'm going to the 4 functions, I'm adding processes, I'm working with the 4 key functions to build it out. Whereas these non-admin users, they don't need to see that. They don't need to worry about it. They don't even need to know that it's there. All they need to know is how to access their processes. And if they're create users, it's not just how to access their processes, but maybe how do they help build the processes. They don't need to know everybody's process on the 4 key functions, and you need to see that. If I go over here to the org chart for this non-admin user that we're logged in as right now, this is what the org chart looks like. We think it's important for every employee to be able to see the organization chart. So that's why this tool exists for non-admin users. But as you can see, whatever positions they don't have access to, they are grayed out. And the only 2 that he's been given access to are illuminated here. So this is showing you more specifically what I mean by TouchStone gives access by position on the org chart. So when I select customer service here, I'm then seeing all the processes on this job description. I can see them all. But I can't edit or change anything here. I can't edit titles. I can't add new processes here. I can't move these processes around. When I select a process, you'll see right up here that it has taken me to the content, but through the dashboard. So let me show you that another way. If I go to the dashboard here, this is my control panel for customer support. So Jack, who we're logged in as, is the customer support position and has read-only access to this position. When I select customer service, not support, I see all the processes on his job description right here, or he would. And when he goes to a process like daily planning and say he's going to go and do some time logs here, he clicks time logs, and then he can go and fill all this out and then save it. So he's using the process. When he goes to the org chart and then clicks his position, he sees his job description, which is important. This is just another way to see the processes, different than from the dashboard slightly. But when he clicks daily planning or any process, it flips him back to the dashboard view. So you can see up here, dashboard, customer service. It's flipping him back to this view because he can't edit or change anything here. He's just using it. So he doesn't even see the process tools page where people build work plans and checklists and where all the creation happens. He's just seeing what's already been created. Conversely, if I go here to the org chart, and then remember, we gave him create access to this position for the bookkeeper. When I select bookkeeper, now I can add new processes to this job description. So this button appears here. I can click this and edit the title of this position even. And when I select a process like this one, it's taking me to the process tools page, not back to the dashboard. So here's where I can build a work plan, checklist, scripts. So he has create only access so that it's appropriate when he clicks the process, it takes him here where he can edit the process and build the process. So I think the important things to remember are when you assign a level of access, think about if that person is going to be building and creating processes or just using them, or both. Maybe they're just using processes of one position and creating building of another. And then remember, if their interface when they're using TouchStone is slightly different, the intention is to simplify it, to make it easier, make it more usable. So it becomes extremely straightforward and usable when someone has read-only access because they don't even see that process tools page. But even when they do have access to a position where they can create and build, it's still pretty simple. They click it, they click all the processes that are already here, and then they go here where they can build and document those particular processes. Okay, so I'm going to log out of this and then go back where we started. And then back to account administration, go back to user accounts, go back to Jack here. So user access, that's where you set their rights to TouchStone. The next toolbar item over is where you create the control panels or where you set control panels. So I'm going to click control panel here and I see this same org chart, same as I saw under user access. So here I want to think solely, what position does Jack fill in the company? Not what does he need to have access to, but what position does he fill? And that's what you want to give him a control panel for. So you can see here that he has a control panel for customer service. And that's why when we logged in as him, we saw that control panel on his dashboard. There could be a situation where someone has more than one control panel. And that situation would be if they fill more than one box on the org chart, if they fill more than one position. Sometimes that happens when you've built a future chart. So you're building your chart for the future. You're saying this is where we're going to be in 2 years or 1 year. And then in the time being or the current situation, people may fill more than one box on the org chart. So I'm going to go back to me right here. And then I'm going to go to control panel. So I have a control panel for the manager of admin finance, and it's a managerial control panel. And I know that because it's red, and that says management assignment. If the employee you're giving a control panel to is a manager, then you want to give them a management assignment. So you click the position you want to give them a control panel for, and then you choose manager here, or you choose staff if they're not a manager. The difference is when you choose manager, that then gives that employee access to the control panels of the positions underneath them. So all right here. So I'm going to remove this control panel for a second and make a kind of finite point. You see this situation where there's senior tech, lead tech, apprentice tech. So there might be situations where somebody is a senior tech, but you're just showing these in a tree, these three positions, because you want to show the progression of the career growth within that department. So you start here, then you move here, then you move here. But it might not be that the lead tech manages the apprentice tech. They may mentor them and assist them, but it might not be that they're the manager. If they are the manager, fine, then give them a managerial control panel. But if they're not, you can bypass the person's ability to look into the control panel of the position underneath them by making it a non-managerial assignment. So I'd click lead tech and I make it staff instead of manager. Update. And then if we go back to the dashboard here, you see, I only see control panel here and lead tech. I don't see anything here under management. So let's go back now. And then I'll do the opposite. I'm going to go here and back to control panel and select lead tech and then make it a manager assignment and hit update. Now I'm saying this person is the manager of this person. So then if we go back here to the dashboard, it will appear. Okay. So for some of you that might not be an issue, but I just wanted to show that as a possibility. I'm going to remove this assignment and then make it blank again. So if this is a future organization chart, let's run through a scenario of what it would look like if someone had multiple control panels. So let's say I am the owner of the company. I'm the chairman of the board. So I'm going to give myself a control panel for owners, and I'm going to make it a managerial position and hit update. Then let's say I'm not only the chairman of the board, one of the shareholders, one of the owners, but I'm also the president. So I'm going to give myself a control panel for president, manager, because this is a managerial position, definitely. And then I hit update. And then let's say because my company's growing and I've got goals of a lot of growth over the next few years, but I'm not quite there yet. And I don't have the resources to have managerial positions in these three main roles, that I'm also the manager of admin finance. So I would choose that position, make it a manager, and hit update. So now you can see I've got three control panels assigned here. And this is just showing that I wear these three hats, that I'm responsible for these three positions. Hopefully not forever, but for the time being, I am. So now if we go back to the dashboard here, you're going to see three control panels here. So remember, this would only be the situation if you were doing a future org chart and you were showing positions people fill currently but won't in the future. How this is beneficial, though, in a growing company is it helps me to kind of compartmentalize what I do, or to see myself in these three different roles. Work gets overwhelming, confusing, stressful, unproductive when somebody is just buried in all the work and there is no structure to it. It becomes incredibly inefficient, particularly when someone is jumping from result to result. Like I'm selling a little bit here, I'm handling customers here, I'm dealing with technicians here. I got to print the finance reports because the bookkeeper's calling. So all that work can feel disjointed, and it's through many studies on organizational design and workflow, it's very mathematical that kind of workload and variation is not productive. This helps with that though, because I can start to see my work here as the owner, as the chairman of the board. I can see my work as the president. I can see my work as the manager of administration and finance. In a lot of small growing businesses, these two roles just get completely forgotten, more or less. I mean, sometimes you might jump in and say, you know, I have to manage 3 departments, or I have to deal what's happening in sales, but then also what's happening in administration and finance because I'm the president. But the real work of a president, the true work that a CEO does, is generally not done in a small business, because we go back to the org chart here, all the attention is pulled to the downline here. So all the focus and thought is getting the work done, selling the product, evaluating things. It's not high level up here. And the reason that is because the high level work, the strategic work, it always feels like it can be done later, right? Because when the phone's ringing, you know, you got to jump and answer the phone. This is another reason why processes don't get built in businesses, in a lot of small businesses, and why it's such a struggle to really find the time to do it. It's because of the pulling of all the doing it work, like Michael Gerber would say. The working on the business is what suffers. So this is just my 2 cents on why this kind of structure for the owner of the company can be really great. Because I could look at my week and I could say, okay, well, on Mondays from 2 to 5, I'm going to do my work as the owner. I go to my processes, and there wouldn't be a ton here, and I go through and do this work. So I can click on the process, I can think about it, I can prepare some higher level strategies that I'm working on. I could collaborate with the accountant on changes we want to make to the overall structure of the company. I can get external advisors in to kind of give me information. I can study business gurus and other workshops that I want to go to. So you're thinking as the entrepreneur and doing this work. And then I could say to myself, well, on every morning from 8 to 11, I'm going to do the work of the president. So click this position, and then it's the same idea. So here's all the work that the president does, and I would set about just kind of going through and doing this work as I needed to. This structures the work. It reminds you of what you need to do as the president, if you are the president. And then lastly, I go to my manager of admin finance work. I'm like, okay, so this is my department. These are the people in my department, and this is the work I need to do as that position. And so that gets done at the other times of the day. So think about this scenario. This setup also helps for managers who have been promoted to be the manager, but then are also very much tied to the technical work. So if we go back to the org chart here, so say I am the manager of sales and marketing, but then I'm also the best salesperson. And then I also do some amount of contribution to advertising. Or I'm the manager of operations, but I also have to jump in and do like lead tech service stuff when it's required. This is, I think, some of the most challenging positions or situations to have in a small business, because you are trying to manage the people and the process, but then you're tied to the work, like it's dependent upon you. And there's not enough time to then fully be the managerial role. And it's further compromised by the pressure that's put on a person when they're accountable for the results of the sales over here. And then I am being told, well, delegate that. But then when I do, the results aren't there because there is no process, and then ultimately it falls back on me. So this is just a complicated situation in any growing business, but an organization chart, processes, and this dashboard setup can certainly assist with that. So this situation would be where I would have a salesperson's control panel, and then I would also have the manager of admin or of sales and marketing's control panel. Okay, so that is the basics of account administration. If you haven't set up users yet, I would just highly recommend this. It's just so beneficial. And there's no reason not to, because you're not going to have to pay anything extra to set up all of your employees. By setting up your employees and introducing them to TouchStone, it helps you to push the process, the goal of having a process dependent business. It helps you to accelerate that, to have a way to talk about it. Even if you don't have a ton of processes documented yet, getting your employees into TouchStone, showing them the org chart, showing them the dashboard functionality, really showing them what a documented process looks like can be hugely beneficial. Even if your intention is not to have all your employees going in and helping you to document, you certainly could start the conversation about getting the processes documented. I was talking to a user the other day, and he's had his TouchStone account for years and never got everything fully documented. And he told me that about a year ago, he decided just to start talking about the processes in his weekly meetings. So he said that here on the org chart, he would just discuss a process with that particular department. Like say here in, I can't remember the example he used, but say here in this department, admin finance, we just make like financial statement preparation, like a process to discuss. And he said they literally started like documenting it in the meeting. Like, what's the first thing? What's the second thing? And just slowly over time started ticking off processes and documenting them. And he drove the motivation for this by discussing the impact of not having the process. So like here, if we're doing accounts receivable, this whole department, or here's another better example. Let's say this department has to run payroll, and the payroll is determined by timesheets. But all of these people here aren't filling out their timesheets and vacation requests and all that accurately and correctly. And so this manager just dumps them over here at the due deadline. But then when we start to sit down and look at them, it's like, this doesn't make any sense. And so then we got to go back over here and say, hey, guy here, like, what does this mean and that mean? Okay, I'll fix it for you. And then this back and forth happens between payroll here and timesheets here. And it's just such a waste of time. These guys are all irritated that you're interrupting them and making it difficult for them. And then everyone's irritated over here because it's just such a waste of time to have to be going back and forth. Well, situations like this, a process would fix that. An accurate process for time tracking over here, an accurate process for payroll over here. If these guys and girls are doing it all correctly, then this happens correctly. So these kinds of irritations between departments can really be beneficial because employees see the value of the process. It's not just you saying, do this, do this. There's a real value to everyone. So let's talk about public processes here for a second, and then I'm going to end with an idea on new employee training inside of TouchStone. So the public processes you're always going to see here on the dashboard. And what these processes are, they're meant to be processes that are company-wide information. So they're processes that are the accountability of every position, not just one or two positions, but every employee needs to have access to these processes. So they're going to tend to be HR things like employee handbook, 60-day review, time off, vacation requests, any kind of HR paperwork that people ask for all the time, and they make a request to admin for it, and then you've got to like dig it up and try and find it. Any kind of documents like that are company-wide that people are asking for, and they're looking for the most current version of that document. It can be stored here. Software trainings are great here. So this is an example of that, CRM how-tos. It could be like Outlook how-tos or email how-tos. I just throw in that word how-tos because I like it, but you could call it anything you want. You could call it eMyth resource or email resources. And then anybody can go here to access that. They could also be strategic things, so like company strategy type things that all employees should be mindful of. So like the management philosophy right here, meeting guidelines. So the rules on meetings, how we have meetings, what's acceptable during a meeting. Time management stuff is also great here, planning information. Also any kind of workshops that you do, or, you know, when somebody comes in to do an in-service or some kind of a training on maybe the 401k plan or anything like that, you can take all the materials that that person has been training with, and hopefully they're electronic, they should be, and then make a process out of it and put it in the public area. So stuff like this, it highlights this type of information, so it's easy for people to find. It makes it important. It makes it where you can reference it. So a manager can say, hey, go view the management philosophy, or you have a question about the compensation plan, go look at it. It's all right there in TouchStone. When somebody accesses a public process, like this one say, it opens that process in the control panel view. So you can see, I'm seeing it, it looks just like a process would look if I accessed it through my control panel. And it's the same idea. Like I can go here to like this daily planner, and when I select it, I could fill all this out and save it back to TouchStone. So here I'm using the public process here. And then it saves it back unique to me. So just because a process is public doesn't mean that anything I do in the process is public. The content of the process is public. Anything I do that user does in the process is saved unique to that person, just like the control panel information. So I could literally go to this time off vacation request. I can fill this form out requesting a vacation, save it, and then my manager could run a report and see it. Nobody else could, just my manager. You'll see it when I click a position here in management review. I'm going to click Jack here. The public processes are listed here as well, all right here. So if Jack had gone in and done a vacation request, I could go here to this process and look in the save folder and find it. Or an easier way would be to go run a management report and find it, because the management reports will pull anything completed in the public folder as well. What you don't want here in the public folder is processes that are not public, that they are the accountability of one or two or even a whole department. I've seen TouchStone accounts before where the whole public folder is it's like 50 processes long. And I think the thought in people's mind is, well, let's just put it here so we can find it easy and we know where to go to get it. So it's all right here. The problem with that is it becomes unmanageable. It's like it's the opposite of what you're trying to do. So by dumping it all on the public folders, you do see it all in one big list here, but you don't know who's accountable for what. People can't find things easy because there's no groupings here. It's just a list. They don't know if that's something for them or something for someone else. So any process that is not public belongs on the job description for the positions that use it. And it's really just one extra click to get to that process. It's much easier to find it than it would be to just dump it in the public folder. So if I go to a control panel, here's the one click, and now I see all the processes in these great little categories, and it's another click to get to the content. So it's one level in to be able to see the processes that I know I'm responsible for, organized in a really cool way, and a click to the content. Here on the dashboard, You save the click to here if it's a public process. But again, this list becomes unwieldy and difficult to manage. So make sure all of your processes are that are in the public folder are actually public. So rather than doing a process of the week, I want to talk about new employee training using the control panel and management review, because I think it has ties to account administration and user access that we talked about over here. And it also kind of sets up what we're going to do next week, which is the whole session being about the control panel and management review. So new employee training is really easy and great to do inside of TouchStone. When people ask me, well, at the end of the day, what am I going to use TouchStone for? There's so many answers to that, but I think it's a fair question when you're new to TouchStone. Well, after I do all this work, well, then what value does it have, or how am I going to use the software from that point forward? Well, the answer in broad strokes is you're going to use it, number one, not primarily, but number one, you're going to use it for training. So that can be new employee training when an employee is brand new, or it could be ongoing training. Good managers continue to train, and they don't train just by firefighting. A bad management, I was going to say bad manager, but I'll keep it less personal. Bad management is management by firefighting or management by walking around. I also think that that's bad management. Management by firefighting is waiting till there's a problem, and then you jump in as the manager and you try to fix it. And 9 times out of 10, when the fire's burning, like, you're just going to put it out. Like, you don't have time to really think about it. Just put it out, and then you're going to move on to the next thing. Well, I think it was Henry Ford who said the best time to fix the roof is when it's sunny outside. That's it. Not when it's raining, right? Because there's a hole in the roof. Then that's the worst time to try and fix it. So same is true for management. So new employee training and ongoing training. So I'm going to quickly talk about new employee training. We're going to get into all different types of training inside using the control panel next time. So when you have a new employee, I think the manager, first of all, should go in through management review and organize the processes for that person. So you can see here, I've got John and Jack under customer service here. They both fill this role. They both have access to the same processes, every process that's on the customer service job description. But a manager can organize them differently, or Jack and John could organize their own processes in the way that they want to. So I just hired Jack here. So I'm going to go to his processes here. So now I'm looking at his control panel. I'm looking at what he sees when he logs into TouchStone. So the processes are just in this big long list. When you hire a new employee, you go to account administration, you set them up, you decide what level of access they're going to have. I think it's probably highly unusual that you would hire a new employee and give them create access. It's probably not the case. It could happen if it's a higher level position or you hired them to document processes for you, but typically you would give them read-only access to their position. And then when the manager goes and looks at this through management review, which we're in now, they're just going to see it as a big long list here. So the first thing I do is organize these processes, and I would organize them into how they're going to be trained to him. So in a control panel, normally on a day-to-day basis, the processes could be organized by categories, by timing, by subject. But for new employee training, organize them by the training weeks or the time you're going to spend to train, the training calendar. So first ask yourself, how long should it take a competent customer service person to learn all these processes? Let's say it's 4 weeks, just to keep it simple. So I'd go here to create group. You can just put week 1 like that, and then save it, and then put the processes that you want to train into week 1 in there. Or I think a better way is to kind of arrange it by subject area to a certain degree, or by type of process. So let's do week 1. Let's call this time planning or time management. So this is all the processes related to him planning his time. So then I'm going to save that. So now I got this group down here called week 1 time planning. So then I would go in and say, okay, what is time related? So here's daily planning. I'm just going to drag that under week 1. Time logs, that's related to time management. Clocking hours, that sounds time related. Then think, okay, what's the next week? What's going to happen in the next week? So then we call this week 2. And then maybe it's customer service processes. And then I save it. And then maybe we say create group. Week 3 is going to be admin. So all the admin work. And then we save it. So as best you can, think of categories. If you're struggling to do that, just do week 1, 2, and 3, and then just put them into some amount of organization that you think makes sense. So the customer service processes, that's going to be like the customer complaints, customer satisfaction, maybe productivity reporting, admin, or like meetings. So think of these categories and then put them into the training weeks. Let's do one more just to make it look good. Week 4. And this is going to be, you can even do like miscellaneous or on demand. I like this term. On demand processes means things you do when I tell you to, or every so often. It's not part of like what you do every day. So like maybe safety is like on demand. Let's put this down here. Quality control, maybe that's on demand. Inspection reports, and maybe that's admin. Industry standards and compliance, that's like on demand, only when you need it. So now I've just organized all these processes. When you refresh the screen, the default list is now going to go away, that header. And so now we're left with these 4 weeks. So I'm setting up Jack's training, and this is what it looks like. Then what Jack does, I sit down with him. He's gone through onboarding, hopefully, and he's gone through his HR paperwork kind of stuff and his introduction to the company and all that good stuff and employee onboarding. And then the manager sits down with him and helps him log into TouchStone. And so this is what that looks like. So I'm pulling over a screen where we're logged in as Jack. Welcome to TouchStone. This is your training, Jack. Click your control panel there. And now, because the manager went in and built all these great groups here and organized it, this is what he sees when he logs in. And you're going to say to Jack, this is what you're going to learn in week 1. This is in week 2. This is 3 and 4. Hopefully in 4 weeks, you're going to be fully trained. This is how it's going to go. You're going to click the process in TouchStone. You're going to read it. You're going to watch the videos. You're going to study it. Then we're going to sit and discuss it. I want you to spend 1 day on this. At the end of the day, we're going to sit and talk about it. During that day, I'm going to come to you and give you demonstrations, or I'm going to have you watch someone else do it. So you think about, as the manager, you think about these different processes and what's the best way for him to learn them. Oftentimes, or sometimes in straightforward positions, Jack could just read this process on daily planning. He could go to the work plan here, read through it. Seems pretty simple. I could tell him to study it for a while and then fill out some time logs just as practice. So as he's going through with this, he watches the tutorials, he thinks about it, then he could make a note to me that he's done with that. And done is good, finished is good. Look at this, whatever word you want to use in the save as. Why you put something in this, have him put something in the save as, is just a note to the manager that Jack's done this work or is ready for me to talk to him about it. All the documents, same thing. You go through, practice doing time logs, maybe save a few, then write done in every single one. So Jack goes through with these processes and does the work in the way that has been laid out. Sometimes in straightforward positions, this is really fast. Other times it takes longer. It could take days of practicing and studying and watching for someone to really understand and learn that process. So I'm going to move this over here and refresh here. So again, if I just start back on my dashboard here, so this is Jack again. So if I go, he's been in TouchStone doing things, studying, reading. I could go up here, go to management reports and run a report to see what he's done. And I'm just going to put today's date in. It's actually the 17th. And I can choose by user here. And I'm just going to hit run report. And then I can literally see, what he's done here and the date and time he did it. So when I review that at the end of the day and I feel like he's good to go, maybe he's taken a test, I feel he's good with this process, I go to him in customer service here. I choose, so I'm in management review right now as the manager. I choose daily planning. I tick off this box that says, yep, he's been trained in that. He's good to go. And then these little green check marks appear for him and for me. And then he goes on to clocking hours next. I could even drag this to the bottom. And now he's doing this next. So this is just a quick and dirty way to, and again, we'll talk more details about this next week, but this is just a way to do new employee training. You can't have a process for absolutely everything. You can't have a process that definitely trains a person in how to do everything just with a work plan. So if you're going, yeah, but in your head, that's all true. But could you do it for 80%? Could you do it for 50% of what your employees do? What if you could? Wouldn't that be so much better than nothing? So I believe the majority of things can be systematized. There could be a process around it. And I've seen thousands and thousands of processes. But for you who think that, well, it can't all be done, you're right. Maybe it can't all be done. But what I'm describing is a fabulous way to bring a new employee into your company, to sit with someone like Jack and be like, look at this, like this is your training. This is everything you're going to learn. It's all written out here. Is it perfect? No, but look how great it is. This is going to be the best training that Jack has ever seen in his life. He's going to praise your company. This is a game worth playing here. So I encourage people to use TouchStone in this fashion. Next week, I'm sorry, I'm over a little bit, but next week, we're going to talk about the control panel and management review specifically. I'm going to talk about all the ins and outs of using the control panel. If you're a manager, how to effectively use management review. It's all in the big picture of learning how to manage with processes, learning how to ensure that your employees are using the processes. So the using and the managing of processes, that's what the dashboard's about. And that's the purpose of all of this at the end of the day.